This is Breakfast at 8:49. Let's take you through a quick run through the papers with Tom Slater and Candice Holdsworth this morning. Good to see you both. Candice, let's have a look at the Sun on Sunday.
Yes, this is a very tragic story. This is in Sun on Sunday about the baby boy Finley Bowden, whose parents tortured him to death. And MP Nigel Mills has come out and criticised social services over it, actually, because he was placed back in their care and afterwards died. But I think this comes in a long line of cases now that we've been hearing about. So, you know, Logan Mwangi, Arthur Labinjo Hughes, Star Hobson, where people are saying there's actually big failures in social services. They were warned, they were told by family members, by members of the community that something was going wrong in these homes, and nothing happened. And, you know, some people have said that maybe they should face penalties for when there's big failings. I'm not sure. I think you have to be very careful with the sort of incentives you create.
Yeah.
If things are too onerous, it might incentivize people to make very conservative decisions when they don't need to, especially when you're dealing with individual cases. But I think that this is a bit of a pattern now, and it does need to be explored.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah. The problem is, Tom, with this is, when we read it like this, it appears very black and white. And at the time, clearly there's been some cock-up, frankly, somewhere. But at the time, it must be much more complex.
Of course, and, you know, as Candice rightly says, you don't want to create a situation in which the state is almost over-empowered to intervene in family life and so on. That has its own obvious downsides. But at the same time, when you see the amount of stories in which you could have teachers, you would have family members, you would have members of the community all raising alarm, and then nothing is done, or in situations where, again, the child is handed back to the parents in question, it's hard not to see this as just like a fundamental failure, really.
Yeah.
Well, it's missed opportunities, isn't it? And in this case, it's the right checkups not being done. It's that follow-up as well. It's a very, very distressing story. Tom, let's head over to the Mail, shall we? And this is about the ULEZ war in London.
And whether or not it's going to hit Labour's election hopes. So apparently lots of people internally in the Labour Party are irritated with Sadiq Khan for extending the ULEZ because of the fact that there are certain seats that they're very keen to pick up, particularly not necessarily in Greater London, just outside of it, but will be affected by it because of the fact that in places like Thurrock or Dartford and so on, there's going to be people who are going to have to drive into London for work. And the thing about the ULEZ is that it is something which particularly punishes working class people, people who drive for a living.
People who haven't got a new car.
Exactly, because of the fact that you have to have purchase one that's either, you know, 2005 or after if it's petrol 2012, I think, and after if it's diesel. And this is something which is increasingly going to be a problem because of the fact that it's going to hit people in terms of living standards, and particularly in parts of the world. If you think about Greater London, these are not places with great transport links.
No.
These are not places in which people can just happily kind of hop on a bus or a tube or whatever. And it also has this knock-on effect for people who drive into London for work and so on. So, again, concern from the Labour Party that this is going to actually hurt their efforts in just outside of London, and questions again as to why is he doing this, other than for reasons of ideology, or also, you know, another way in which money can be generated, basically.
Well, yeah, you do wonder, don't you? But money from the wrong people, money from the people who really can't afford it. Candice, in the Sunday Times this morning, an investigation into 650 breast cancer deaths.
I mean, this is another grim story. So this story in the Sunday Times, it's about a surgeon called Ian Patterson, who I think it was between the years of 1997 to about 2001, operated on women who didn't have anything wrong with them, performed mastectomies, they went through chemotherapy. I mean,
Nothing wrong with it.
There was nothing wrong with them. He was performing, basically they think it may have been for money, but also he had some psychological things going on. But now there's an inquest into a number of deaths that they think he may have been linked to. You know, women that he performed surgery on who died, and did it lead to their deaths? I just find this so appalling. I mean, he was a leading breast surgeon. He was respected. These women trusted him. And apparently it took quite a long time before people started raising concerns and red flags. They were worried. They didn't want to question this eminent surgeon and the things that he was doing, even though it was quite obvious that something wasn't right.
It's terrifying. Frankly.
It is.
It is terrifying.
Sadistic.
But look, on that note, we do have to leave it. Tom Slater, Candice Holdsworth, good to see you both this morning.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
for your time.
Thank you.